Welcome to the Clemson Finest Series. I'm Will Vandervoort as we get you ready for Clemson Boston College this week. If you don't recognize who this guy is right here, something's wrong with you. This is Clemson legend Levon Kirkland, he's Clemson Hall of Fame. He's South Carolina Hall of Fame, South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. Now he's going to be in the Clemson Ring of Honor, man. Congratulations, dude.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
I mean, what's it feel like when you hear me say Clemson legend and all that stuff?
It still feels unreal because a lot of me is still that little guy that came from Lamar, South Carolina. So for all this to be happening, it's just amazing. Now, I always thought I'd be able to play the NFL, but these awards, it's just tremendous honor.
So, we'll kind of go from the beginning because I like your recruiting story, how it all started. You weren't a highly, during those days, they didn't have the recruiting services like they do now, where everybody knows everybody, and you got the underwear Olympics and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
You had to your play had to really stand out to get a coach's attention. So talk me through when Clemson first noticed you and how that recruitment went.
Okay, well, it actually happened this way. We were playing a team called Chapin in the playoffs, and there were some scouts or recruiters there to see some other guys play. I was nowhere near on the radar. I was more of a local guy, and people knew me around the region, but not beyond that. So my head coach, Coach Terry Thiers, came up to me. I was just kind of sitting down. He was just like, "There are some recruiters out there." And that's all he said. And I was like, "Oh, okay, really? Good." And so I went on to have a fabulous game. The next week, South Carolina actually sent me the letter first. And then Clemson came behind them the very next week. But to Clemson's credit, Coach Miles Aldridge really gained a relationship with me. And he called me like I was at least a 3-star guy. So it was pretty cool being sought after a school like that. And then I went into my senior year, and I guess they saw enough, and they offered me a scholarship.
Now, you talked the other day about how Coach Ford, your conversation with Coach Ford, and it was a plane ride. Can you tell me about it, and what was the plane ride, and where were y'all guys going?
Well, I played basketball in high school. It was around Martin Luther King's weekend. And so I wasn't able to come on Friday like most guys. So I came on Saturday. So they flew me down from Florence to Clemson, which was kind of crazy. My first plane ride, I loved it. And so, we do the whole spiel, and I'm already pretty much sold. But we get on the flight, but he flew with me, but he was going to see another guy in Washington, D.C. And so we talked on the way, I don't know how far the flight was, not that far. We landed, I got off the plane, and the plane took off. And, he tells me this story, and he'll tell you that he was recruiting me, but they were really more anxious to go see this other guy. Turns out the guy that they really wanted didn't play at all for us. And I ended up being all ACC, all American, all that. And it just basically says that sometimes we all get lucky. So I got lucky to be able to play at Clemson. I guess they got lucky to have me, so.
And it's a good way to show the kids out there that, it all depends on what you do and how hard you work, right? I mean, I know something you've always told me, it's not about the talent so much as how much work you put in and what the coaches see you and stuff like that.
I think so always, You got to have some talent, but it's the guys who work hard and the guys who are the technicians that are normally the guys who end up playing a lot and playing well and playing for a long time. So it is not about just talent, and I think a lot of times talent is the thing that everybody emphasizes, but they never emphasize the guys who work hard, the guys who are, I call them grimy. And back then we had a lot of guys like that on that team. We had guys like Terry Allen, myself, Ed McDaniels, Jeff Flesh, Dexter Davis, the guys who weren't really highly recruited but end up being really good players on the team. So in this day of age of talent, man, it's still a place for guys who are great workers who are willing to develop themselves, and that's the kind of guy I was.
So you get at Clemson. I think you redshirted your freshman year, right?
Yes, I did.
And so you were trying to get noticed. I know you've told this story to me before. So when you got noticed in practice, and you thought, okay, the coaches were kind of seeing. Can you talk to us about that and what that was like?
Well, just before that, I was redshirted. Barney Farrell, one of the GAs at the time, was the guy who actually just like, man, if you keep working as hard as you work, you're going to be one of the best linebackers ever played here. And I really just truly accepted that. I was like, okay, well, cool. So the next year, we do a 3-on-3 drill. And I'm going against a guy named Stacy Fields, who's a pretty big guy, ended up being one of our All-Americans. And I was maybe 215 pounds, and we did a drill called 3-on-3. And I stuffed him the first time, made the tackle. Did it again. So it's 3 times, which is almost really tough to do. I haven't done it since then. And so I'm like, surely this is going to get me noticed. And Coach Ford is going to call my name. So my whole biggest dream during that red shirt freshman year pregame was for Coach Ford to say, Levon Kirkland.
Right.
So he gets up there, and he's running the film, and he's like, if you ever want to see anybody do the 3-on-3 drill, I want you guys to take a look at this Levon Kirkland. And I'm like, I have a brother named Levon, my father's named Levon. So as a youngest boy, you want your name called
absolutely.
out, of course, right? So I was like, something told me to say, let them know your name, like the angel and devil. And I was like, Coach, my name is Levon. He's like, I know your damn name, which he really didn't know my name. And all the coaches they just thought it was hilarious. They just bust out laughing. And I was like, okay, I guess my name is Levon. But man, I just wanted Coach Ford to call my name, and he got close. He didn't do it exactly, but it still was fun for me, for him to recognize who I was, because I just don't think he knew who I was, because we had a bunch of guys on the team at the time. And, it was just a lot of hard work. And another story that a lot of people don't know was one day I practiced with the 4th string and the 3rd string. And then when the 1st string and 2nd string guys came out there, I had to practice with them. So I already practiced one full, did a scrimmage with the 3rd and 4th string guys, and I had to do one with the 1st and 2nd string guys. Man, I was so exhausted that I was beyond tired. And one of the referees told Tommy West, he's like, you got to get number 44 off the field. He's delirious. And I was, man, but I wanted to play so badly that I went beyond delirious and just kept playing and they finally got me off, and they had to put me against the wall and just spray water on me. I was
Was this during fall camp or spring?
This is in fall camp.
In fall camp,
Fall
wow.
camp. And
fall camp was not easy for Coach Ford.
It was not easy, but I had scrimmaged, like I said before, I scrimmaged with the 3rd and 4th string guys, and then I scrimmaged with the 1st and 2nd. And I think I was like one of the only defensive players that did that day. And I was so tired, but I kept going, because I wanted to play. The year before that, I didn't play. I wanted to be in a traveling squad. Even if it was special teams and being a backup, I didn't care. I just wanted to be out there. Yeah.
Well, it started to show that 87 season or 88 season. I remember the game that I say is your coming out game, and you mentioned it also the other day, is the Duke game.
The Duke game. Yes.
Steve Spurrier, they're undefeated. I think they're 7-0, ranked 12th in the country coming in that day. Yeah. And you guys were actually somewhat of an underdog in that game, which was crazy.
If you think about it now, it was a little crazy, but they were on the roll, and they were good. And we watched them on film, and we were like, man, we got a work cut out for us. And at the time, John Johnson and myself was kind of rotating. Jesse Hatcher was the other starting outside backer. And it was just my turn to start that game. And I just had a tremendous game. One of the first plays I made was, I think it was a sack. They were trying to run a screen, I made a sack. And then there's another play, pretty much the same thing. I was just all over the field that day. And at that point in time, I felt like, man, I can really play on a big stage. And that was a big game. Everybody was there.
It was homecoming.
It was homecoming. It was televised.
Yep.
So it was a big game. And my brother, my oldest brother, actually came to that game. And that was that's when he called my brother, who was in the military, just like, man, he can really play. And my other brother was like, what? He's like, I'm telling you, he's pretty good. So it was a coming out party for me. And, for the rest of my career, everything went pretty good.
And then that's when, at the same time, you guys as a unit just became so dominant at that point. I mean, Clemson's always had some good defenses, been known for, but that's when, you talked about Ed McDaniel, you had yourself, and later on Wayne Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys were just so fast at linebacker. It was amazing how fast you guys were.
And we talk about development, that's what it was. They got some guys who were really good athletes, but maybe not that big, 190, 200 pounds. And they basically looked at the guy and said, man, he can really move. We build him up. We can put him at outside linebacker, and the rest is history. And we played that 3-4, and we had some special outside backers. Just the outside backers, we had 4 of those guys.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting like what you said, Everett Daniels and
Brewster.
Brewster, Kenzel, Chuck O'Brien. We had some guys, and you look at the front, we had Chester McLaughlin, Rob O'Dean, Vance Hammond, Brinston Buckner. I mean, it was
Those guys were okay.
Yeah, they were fine. They were fine. Then we had guys like Dexter Davis, Jerome Henderson, so we were decent. Yeah.
Yeah, you're decent. That's a good way to describe it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, nasty decent.
Yes.
I know the '88 season, which you came in '89, and my favorite game in '89 was the Florida State game.
Right.
When you guys, Coach Ford, I know you want a little bit of revenge because of Punt Ruski the year before.
Oh, yeah. No question.
So can you tell me about that game a little bit and about how Coach Ford was going into that one?
Sure. Actually, it started that Thursday before that game. We had one of our GAs come out and pretend to be the mascot for Florida State. And he walked out there. I mean, he rolled out there in the horse and he stuck the spear. And from that point, I knew we were going to win because we went absolutely nuts. So we go down there, man, and they bring the horse. I can't really name it. What's the horse name again?
Renegade.
They bring Renegade. We almost charged Renegade. We tried to spook him a little bit, but Coach Ford kind of held us back. And we were determined that what happened in '88 was not going to happen in '89. And we got off to like a blazing start. I mean, we get the ball first. We almost run it back for a touchdown. We drive down, score. We go on defense, it's 3 and out. I get a sack that first series. We get another score, then another score. I mean, we're killing these guys. And I think Coach Bowden actually gave us a compliment as outside backers. He's like, that's the fastest group of linebackers I've ever seen in my life. And from that point, we just kind of took it on. And we were probably a little bit before our time. You're talking about guys who ran 4.5, 4.6. I mean, at that time, those were fast guys. Those were receivers. And that's what we were. I mean, we just basically came off the edge, and it was just really hard for teams to stop us.
And later that year, you had one mom cry that you guys stopped hitting your son. Yes. And that was Major Harris's mom. And you guys that was one of the best performances I've ever seen a Clemson defense put on in a bowl game.
It was so funny because he was second in the Heisman running at the time. And, as a player, you always have pride, right? And you want to play well. Another thing is when someone keeps telling you how good another guy is. And that's what we heard for 2 whole weeks, how good Major Harris was. And it was almost impossible to stop him and blah, blah, blah. And we just kind of looked at it like, they don't know who we are. Like, the nation doesn't know who we are. And they don't understand how good we are. So we basically like, as long as we rush our lanes, we can contain this guy. And we felt that. We felt like we had an overall defense that he was the guy and he was dangerous, but if we rush him the right way, we could easily defeat him, and that's what we did. They got that first drive on us, and we kind of settled down. After that, once I got that first sack on them, man, we just started rolling, and they just couldn't match our speed at the time.
Y'all guys handled him 27-7.
Yeah,
I mean,
and we beat him, and
y'all beat him into submission.
We beat him up, and I remember one time I think Wayne slammed him to the ground, and one time he sprinted all the way to the right, then he came back, and I was waiting on him, and I was like, once he throws his ball, I'm gonna unload on him. So I just kept my feet chopping. I had a nice little angle on him, so he couldn't get away. So he came at me. He kind of hesitated. He threw it, and once he threw it, I'm like, bam! And I laid into him, and I think later on he was like, man, that's the hardest I've ever been hit in my life. So he was really never used to another defense playing the way we did and getting after him the way we did.
Yeah, it was fun watching you guys hit it. And I know a lot of people talk about the 2014 defense and how great it was. And,
right.
And Coach Venables has had some great defenses,
no question.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
But that 1990 defense
It's
still the best defense Clemson's
yeah.
ever had. That's my opinion.
Right.
You know, because you guys were just loaded with NFL talent. I think 7 guys.
No, I think
nine.
It was eight or nine.
Because Trapp was a reserve. He wasn't a starter,
Mm-hmm.
but he ended up being a starter in NFL. Yeah. 9 guys on that team, on that defense, started in the National Football League. Didn't play, started.
And one of our best players was the nose guard, who was like only 6'1", 240, Rob Bodine.
Yeah, All-American.
Who became an All-American, a Hall of Famer here. And we had to really fight Rob from getting all the tackles because at that time, he was so quick off the ball. It was like, I think he was like second in tackles one year. But yeah, I think that defense was, you know how people say coming off a bus? Mm-hmm. You would see us on the field, you'd be like, holy cow. I mean, we're going to have some trouble. And I just thought that we had one of those, I mean, we were like men. But we started all young. We played young, and we just kind of grew up in it. By my junior year, we were just so solid. And the cool thing was that we didn't want people to get across the 50. You know, forget scoring.
Many people did.
Yeah, we knew that people weren't going to score on us. Mm-hmm. So our challenge was, and way we took ownership was, let's not let them get past the 50. So there's a couple of times we didn't let teams pass the 50. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was, I compared that defense against any other defense.
Well, y'all had 3 shutouts that year, I believe, including in the Hall of Fame Bowl against Illinois. You also scored 7 touchdowns as a defense, which is like unheard of. Yeah. It's like, I still think Arlington Nunn holds the record for touchdowns in the season by a defensive player.
And Dexter Davis got a whole lot of, he scored. I think he scored a couple times.
Yeah, the fumble against NC State in Raleigh.
It was so hard to make tackles on that team. It was difficult. It really was. And for being an outside linebacker, you rotated so much. Mm-hmm. You know, between the 4 of us, John Johnson, Wayne Simmons, Ashley Shepard, myself, John and I were the starters. We played the first 2 possessions. Then the other guys played the other 2 possessions. We rotated like that. And if somebody was kind of on the hot streak, we kind of let that guy play. But, you know, we barely got snaps. it was, you know, if you look at our stats, it didn't look that great, but all of us had like 5 or 6 sacks. So it's a lot of production, and we made a whole lot of plays. So it was a great defense. I'm not sure that people really appreciate that defense the way it should.
Yeah, y'all guys finished number 1 in the country in total defense. You're number 2 in scoring defense, number 2 in rushing defense. I think you're top 10 pass defense. Yeah, I mentioned the turnovers. I mean, it was just an amazing how good you guys were.
I think at that time people were more excited to see the defense come on the field. Mm-hmm. Like back then.
I still am.
They didn't care. I mean, we were going to score enough points. But I just remember, like, probably around mid-season, man, when we came on the field, man, the fans really got excited because I thought we played the right way. I thought we played together. There was no, we wasn't really a selfish team. We wasn't a guy on the team that was selfish. Mm-hmm. And that could have easily been because everybody could play. So it was really cool to be on that squad. It really was.
And then the next year, you end up being an All-American, even though I know, like you said, that wasn't something you guys were shooting for. But you end up first team All-ACC, All-American. And then the biggest thing is you get drafted the next year. What was that process like in getting yourself mind ready to, like, you're going to be playing in the NFL?
It was different because it was no pro days. I mean, they'd just call you up and say, hey, I want to work it out today. Okay, no problem. But I felt like I had a good foundation at Clemson University. And the team that ended up drafting me was the team that probably talked to me the most. And that was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coach Kyle was a new head coach, a rookie head coach. Mm-hmm. And I remember going up to Pittsburgh to visit him. And automatically, I wanted to play for him. I was like, man, this is the guy I want to play for. So come the draft, I'm at my sister's house. And at the time, people didn't have like two-way calling. So I had to convince her to get two-way calling. And she fussed at me, but she eventually got it. So, the first round, I wasn't quite sure because I was actually changing position. So
outside the inside.
Outside the inside, I was like, boy, I never played the inside, but okay, whatever. And so the 38th pick comes up, and it's Pittsburgh's time. And I go in the bathroom, and I look in the mirror, and I'm like, they're going to pick me. They're going to pick me. They're going to pick me. I walk back out at the kitchen table where the phone was. I sat by the phone. I just like sat by the phone. And I guess I dozed off because my niece answered the phone. I was like right there. She just picked it up. And I'm like, man, I just hope it's nobody, like a prank call or anything like that.
Or the Bengals.
Or the Bengals or anything like that. And actually the Bengals did call me before the draft started. And so they called me. So he called me up, and Tom Donahoe, who was the general manager at the time, was like, hey, Levon, man, we're really considering picking you this next pick. And I'm like, ooh, considering? Okay. And then Charles Bailey, who was one of the main scouts who kind of, I guess, worked our area, and he was always like, man, you're going to be a pro. That's how he talked. Man, you're going to be a pro. You're going to be a pro for a long time. We need to get you in the first round. I hope we get you in the first round. So I answered he gets the phone. He's like, hey, Kirkland, do y'all have a TV in Lamar, South Carolina? I'm like, yeah, man, we got a TV in Lamar. I'm like, but I'm not in Lamar, I'm in Sumter. He say, do y'all have cable, ESPN? I'm like, yeah, we got cable, ESPN. He's like, hey, man, welcome to the Black and Gold. Your name's going to be strolling down the bottom. And I was like, yes. My brothers and sisters went crazy. My mother and father didn't quite know what was going on. It was what's happening. And but that was, back then, the draft wasn't quite the way it is now.
Yeah.
So I didn't, Chris Berman was like, yeah, by the way, Pittsburgh Steelers picked Levon Kirkland out of Clemson University, and we're going to sign off now, and I think karate is next.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I get no highlight, anything like that, but I was thrilled, man. I was thrilled. I came back to Clemson, man. The exams were happening, but, my dream came true. It was a dream that I had when I was 11 years old, and to go through all those different phases and really not recruited heavily, to go to Clemson and really make a name for myself and to be able to go to that next level was amazing. It really was.
What were some of your best moments in Pittsburgh? Obviously the Super Bowl. That was
Super Bowl
special.
was good. I think really for me that first NFL start, because like I said before, I played outside and I made the adjustment to play inside. And the cool thing about it was I was a signal caller, and I'd never been a signal caller before. And I remember Coach Coward telling me, you're going to have to take over this huddle. And I'm like, okay, with Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green and Rye Woodson, Carnell Lake. I was a second-year guy, and he wants me to, take over. And it kind of really brought out another side of me, the side that had to be bold, the side that had to talk, the side that had to communicate. And it really made me a better student of the game. It really did. I think outside backer, man, it's a glamorous position. You go get the sacks, but the inside backer it was the dirty work that I had to do,
Like Jack Lambert.
But then, I had to run down the seams with tight ends that were faster. Well, not faster than me, but I had to run down like 30 yards down the field, turn back around, get the signal, then come back and make a rough, tough running play. So it was a different thing for me, but it helped me grow as a player. And I think that first start against San Francisco, I had like 10 tackles, man. It was great.
Well, you see he's wearing the black and gold. Got
Yes.
the 99 there.
And the signature.
Yeah, and the signature.
Yeah, Rock Promotions. He's real good.
Yeah. Well, tell me why 99. Tell me that story, how that happened.
Well, when I first got to Pittsburgh, they treated rookies so bad. But anyway, they gave me number 45. And I'm like, this number's ugly. But so after the preseason, they were like, Tony, our equipment man, is like, hey, Kirkland, got to come in here and pick your jersey. I'm like, oh, okay. He said, well, you can't have 45. You can only have from 50 to 59 or 90 to 99. I was like, okay. So first jersey they had out there was 58, Jack Lambert. 59, Jack Ham.
No, it's not going to happen.
56, which everybody in the world wore, in 99. Mm-hmm. There's no way I'm getting 58 or 59. Mm-hmm. No way, because I could never live up to that expectation. So it's 56.
Well, you could, but...
I could. I really could.
And you did, but...
But, man, those are legends. So
Yeah.
I didn't really want to wear somebody else's jersey, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Then it was 56, 99. 56, pretty much every linebacker in the league had 56. But 99, I looked at it, I was like, man, it's close to 100. It reminded me of 44. And I was like, man, this could be kind of badass if I get this number. I was like, I'll get number 99. And he kind of looked at me like, okay. First day I go out to practice, man, everybody is like, 99? Why are you wearing 99? I'm like, trust me, it's gonna grow on you.
Yeah.
And it fit me to a T.
Yeah.
It really did. So I just thought it was a great number. I thought it was kind of a outside the box number. And a lot of guys are wearing 50, but who was wearing number 99?
Nobody but Levon Kirkland.
Except for Levon Kirkland. So I'm like, I'm gonna make this thing famous. And we did.
And Steeler Nation, as you mentioned, embraced you with the 99, right?
They did. And you know what was funny? Our front seven, actually every guy had 99. So Greg Lloyd had 95. Kevin had 91. Chad had 94. I had 99. Brinston had 96. Joe Steed had 93. And Ray Seals had 97.
Yeah,
So
I had
it's
it
kinda
almost
cool.
covered, yeah.
Yeah. So offensive linemen would get confused because we would come from all different directions, and they didn't really know who was coming. So
What 90 was coming?
yeah, and they used to call us the defense of the '90s, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, y'all were the defense of the night. That was just as good as that Clemson defense.
It really was.
It really was.
Yeah.
So now your best, I think you talked about it. One of your best plays is the guy you intercepted, a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Can you talk about that and who the guy was?
Oh yeah, of course. I told you this story. Dan Marino. Dan Marino was the man. I mean, he could throw the best balls in the world. So it's like my third year starting, and he comes out, he comes to the line of scrimmage. And as an inside linebacker, you notice a little bit more than outside backer. You kind of notice what's going on and something tips you off. He comes to the line of scrimmage. He looks at me. He looks at Keith Jackson. And it was like, we're going after him right now. And I'm thinking like, they only tried me. And so what I did was I backed up just one step because I'm thinking that they're gonna try to throw this ball. Sure enough, it was kind of a play action. I didn't fall for the play action. Keith Jackson is running. I roll with him, as we call it. And Dan Marino threw me the prettiest ball ever. I caught that thing. The first thing I was like, man, I just intercepted Dan Marino. So after that interception, it wasn't my first, but after that interception, you're like, man, it's important that the quarterbacks that you intercepted. So I've intercepted Jim Kelly, guys like that, Mark Brunell. Who else have I intercepted? There's several guys like Drew Bledsoe. So I've gotten some guys, yeah. So it wasn't so much the interceptions, like who did you intercept?
Dan Marino.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I got Jim Kelly, the guy, I got him like 4 times. Yeah.
So your career, you have this great career with the Steelers. You finished the last few years at Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. When you look back, though, and you say, I know you've told me this before, the Clemson fans and the Pittsburgh fans, you couldn't have gone to a better place after Clemson because the fan bases are so similar, right?
Great transition for me. I always thought that the Clemson fans were very knowledgeable, very friendly kind of fans. I mean, they would even treat the opponent's fan base really nice, that Southern hospitality. And then I go to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is kind of like, steel mills and all that, but it's really a family city. It's a great place to raise a family. And the Steeler fans were pretty much the same. They were knowledgeable. Will they ask for your autograph? Yes, but they were really polite about doing it, and they wouldn't really up in your face. So from one fan base to another, I thought that I landed in great fan bases. Both fan bases love defense, which is great for me. Mm-hmm. And so it was a wonderful experience for me. I mean, they really love their linebackers at Pittsburgh, and they love the defense here at Clemson. So it was real cool. But later on, I told you this, I went to Philly. It wasn't quite the same. I mean, they're passionate, but they're kind of in your face, very invasive. I mean, it's just like, dude, back up a little bit. I mean, they demand your autograph, or if you're not playing up to their standards, man, they'll boo you in a second. So it was tough going to Philly, but Pittsburgh, Clemson, very similar fan base.
The Rooneys, I know real fast. How, you've always told me Dan, when he was live, would send you notes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even after your playing days.
Yeah.
How special was that playing for the Rooneys?
It was great, man, because he would come in the locker room, but, he let Bill Cowher do the coaching. He let the GM do their job, and he just provided whatever was needed. Very smart. They would let guys go really before they were like done, but I respected that. And I remember when I got waived, I actually talked to Mr. Rooney, and he's like, "Hey, Levon, we really wanted to keep you. It was a money issue." And at the time, I wasn't upset about it. I understood it as a business. And I broke down, I said, "Mr. Rooney, I want to thank you guys for drafting me, and they gave me 2 contracts before. I never really went into free agent or anything. They always, did well by me." And I'm just like, "Oh man, I just want to thank you." And he's like, "Well, if there's anything I ever do for you, please let me know." And it was a good relationship. It really was. He had a great relationship with the team, with the players, very family oriented, just really built relationships. Before people started talking about relationships in business, he did that. And I know if you were a coach on that team, you love him too, because he kept you on forever. So it was just a good atmosphere. It really was.
Speaking of coaches, what was it like playing for Coach Ford and playing for Coach Cowher? Similar differences?
Very similar. Very similar. Both guys were engaging. Both guys were tough. You had to practice hard, especially with Bill. You had to practice hard. If you didn't practice hard, and with Danny too, they would start all over. They were just like, "This is not good enough. We're not leaving here unless we have a good practice." And they really believed in great practice, great games. And for the most part, not every time, it really did work. We practiced, we kind of trained the way we were going to play. And Danny had some legendary practices. Real quick, we used to do what we call a mill drill, and it's basically a run drill against offense versus defense. And scouts would come on Tuesday, and they would just line around our mill drill. That's how legendary our mill drill. It was hitting elbows, toes, everything, and it was physical. And if you wasn't a physical guy, you could not play for Danny Ford. If you weren't a physical guy, you could not play for Bill Cowher. So basically, I got both coaches, and it was fun. I was used to it at Clemson, so when I went to Pittsburgh, it was a easy adjustment. But both coaches were very similar, but they both loved on you too. They both loved their players.
when you finished up at Pittsburgh and your career's over, I love your story on how you were just sitting around and your wife says, you need to do something. Can you tell me that?
Yeah, man, I became really good at PlayStation, man. I was excellent at PlayStation, college football. I was really good at it. And I guess one day she's like, so, like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just chilling out. She's like, you need to go back to college. Man. You need to finish. You told your dad you were going to finish. I was like, okay. So she got on the phone right away, man. And so
she had her doctorate by then, right?
Yeah. She's like, I'm not gonna be married to some guy that's not educated. So I went back. I remember going back. It was during the spring semester. I went back and I'm thinking like, ooh boy, could I do this? And they basically told me like, listen, you only got like 14 more credits, and you can finish up. I was like, okay. So the first day I went to class, man, there was a bunch of young kids in there, man. People are probably wondering, like, why is Levon Kirkland back in college? And after that first class, I'm like, man, I'm here to get my degree. I don't really care what anybody says or anybody thinks.
Right.
And so I went back, but the cool thing was being in the NFL helped me be a better student because we had to study so much that I was used to it. And so now I was a better student. I understood and learned how to study. And, actually, my wife Keisha kind of gave me a whole lot of tips. I'm like, man, I wish I'd have known this earlier. She gave me a lot of tips on how to be a better student and how to study. So, without her, this Ring of Honor thing would never happen.
So I was going to go down there next, yeah.
It would never actually happen if it wasn't for her. So her being the catalyst to me going back to school was big. And once I got into the flow, I really enjoyed it.
And that's also a sign, it played a big role in why you're in the Ring of Honor this weekend. But also it's a good example for your little girl,
right.
To see that, hey, when you start something, you need to finish it.
Yeah, no question. And, it was my intentions to finish. It really was. Mm-hmm. But, man, we would go to playoff games. It really wasn't a lot of online stuff at the time. So it was several years before, the internet even really came. It probably was back in 1969, as the story goes. But for me, the internet wasn't provided. So it was always tough to get back to school. And just when I retired, I thought like, well, maybe I won't get it. And then she just gave me the nudge, like, why don't you go back to college? Why don't you finish up? You got the time, we got the resources, go back to school. And so I went back and bam, finished up. Did summer school really, actually, I started in January and finished up in August. So it was really cool. Really cool.
What does it mean to have a degree from Clemson, being that you played here too?
Oh, it's tremendous, man. Like you said before, it would have been an empty feeling. It would have been a feeling like, man, I didn't fulfill what I needed to fulfill. And it would have been, it would really, although I had a great football career, it still wouldn't really amount to anything unless I got my degree. And then, I can't tell people to get your education. And, people wanted me to speak, but I wouldn't speak for a while. I didn't speak for a while. I didn't, because I thought it was hypocritical for me to tell you to get your education when I didn't finish mine.
Right.
So after I finished, I thought like, okay, this gives me a little bit more credit to talk to people about finishing and completing. And it was really cool. And, my daughter's going to come up and hopefully we get to see Clemson, and she enjoys it, and you never know, it might be another Kirkland and go to Clemson. I hope so. Anyway.
Yeah, we all hope so.
Yeah.
You're very proud of your name, as we all are, our own names.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best story you tell is when I called you right after it was announced, and you talked about how it didn't mean so much to you as much as it meant that your father and your mother's name's going to be up there, and that's what really kind of hits you more than seeing your name.
Because, I've gotten a lot of awards during my days, trophies, Hall of Fames. But this one is so much special because I told you I had this conversation with my father after a church service. And, he basically saying, I never thought a son of mine would go to Clemson. And I said, what makes you say that? He said, well, son, we couldn't go through the front door, and to see you go to Clemson and do as well as you did meant a whole lot to me. I have never really told anybody this. This is the first time I've told anybody this, but when I was in high school, I had some teachers that were just like, he shouldn't go to Clemson. He shouldn't go to Clemson. He's not going to do well at Clemson. And my father was a custodian at the time at Lamar High School. And I remember him saying like, well, if they want him, then he probably can do very well at Clemson. So, but people were just trying to be discouraging. And they're just like, oh, he shouldn't go, he shouldn't go. Meanwhile, they're trying to get their kid in. But they don't want me to go. And I just remember him telling me that and just like, man, for you to go there and do as well. So for me, his name being on there, his last name being on there, it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing. That's the legacy, I think.
It's a cool legacy, man. Your story's great, man.
Thank you.
I know I could spend here all day talking. We can talk black and gold. We can talk about this season and what's going on.
Well, I'm a talker, so
we can do like a Steelers podcast. That's what we ought to start doing.
We should.
That's a brainchild right there. We ought to do that.
We should do that.
You
heard it now. If he does a Steeler podcast and I'm not involved, then there's gonna be trouble.
Oh, you would be involved. You're right there on my phone, buddy. You'd be the first person I call. So.
Thank you. So happy.
No doubt about it. Man, thanks so much for being here, man. I appreciate your time today.
Oh,
congratulations.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome watching you tomorrow, Saturday. Get into the Ring of Honor.
Now, do you think I'm gonna cry?
Probably.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm like.
85,000 people honoring you again. That's going to be an awesome feeling too, man.
It's going to be awesome, yeah. That's better than running down the hill.
Well, I don't know about that now.
The hill is pretty awesome.
The hill's pretty awesome. I got to do it one time.
Oh, did you?
So, I'll tell you that story later, but it was special. So, anyway, that's all we got for our Clemson Finest Series with Levon Kirkland. Make sure to pay attention on Saturday at Boston College game. He's going to be honored getting in the Ring of Honor, the 7th Clemson football player of all time to get in the Ring of Honor. It's a pretty special moment.
Oh, you know that I'm the 7th child?
How about that? I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
How about that?
I didn't really know
Until
that.
I just said it.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, there you go. Anyway, we'll check with you on the Clemson Insider. Stay tuned. We have all coverage for the Clemson Boston College game. Stay tuned, and we'll see you on the other side.